Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 4 of the Gamertag and Bradley podcast. Thank you for joining me, Brad. As always, how you doing, mate? You all good?
Yeah. Always.
Yeah, always good. Always in his Apple Vision Pro, which, by the way, I tried again. Have I spoken to you since I tried Steam Frame?
No, we haven't spoke at all. Actually, a lot of people are probably going to be expecting us to talk about that.
We probably should talk about that. I didn't even think about that until right now. But yeah, dude, I used Apple Vision Pro and I watched the Weekend music video in there.
Yeah, that one's the best one, I think. That one's
My
crazy.
goodness, that is crazy. The fidelity is amazing. The depth of the VR is just insane. It's well beyond anything I think I've experienced in terms of, I mean, it's a 180 VR experience, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, 180. What are they doing? Like 8K per eye, 90 hertz video. It's ridiculous.
It was so immersive. There's a bit in it where you come out the back of an ambulance and you float over this city, which is like a city in the sky and a city below it, like mirrored. Dude, I nearly fell off my chair. Like, that rarely happens in VR in general. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. That alone made me want to, if I had the money, I would have just loved to get that.
I remember when that one came out, I think it was like last year or something. I literally told people on Twitter, like, hey, even if you already had a demo of the Vision Pro at the Apple Store, if you have one nearby, just go back just to watch that freaking video for free, because it is.
I absolutely agree.
I think even still right now, it's like probably the best one, I think, of all of the.
It was absolutely shocking. It's something that you do, and I know why the guy wanted me to experience it, is because he knew it'd blow me away.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane. Is that what like the IMAX stuff's like though, or something? Is there anything that gets near to that?
I think IMAX is pretty good, like especially with the IMAX wide, but I don't know. It's really like, I guess because of the way they designed it. I do hope people have access somehow to a nearby place to try it out, but like it's almost an out of body experience, like how you're talking about at some parts, and even like the part where they just put the guy's face right in front of you, like it's almost uncomfortable, but it's also like
It is really uncomfortable. I was like, it's like he's here and his head's like this big, and you're looking down on him on this in the back of an ambulance, and I was like, this is a bit close.
Yeah, it's like it's just art though. Like that's just like you're just staring at this guy that's on the hospital bed, and you're like, oh my god, should I be here? Should I be this close to him? Because socially, your brain's just like that's how you know it's immersive. Your brain is like,
Get out,
be this
back
guy's,
off.
and yeah, I should be this close to this guy's face. But
it reminded me of a guy I used to work with who had no spatial awareness, and he was a little bit shorter than me. We used to call him this is so random, Ram Man from He-Man, because he had no neck. He was like a big boulder of a guy, and he would speak to me like this. And I remember the first couple of times it happened, I was like wow. But he's completely harmless. But it is a weird experience, and it did remind me of my friend Ram Man. So yeah, if you want to talk about Steam Frame, I did that video on it. I think it's weird. I keep seeing on Reddit how some people are like, I think the hype's dying because it feels like they're taking too long. You know, everyone assumed by this date, probably around this time, this episode going up, we would have heard something. And as we know, with like hardware prices and stuff, it sounds like we're not going to hear anything, at least for another couple of months, maybe. Unless you know anything, Brad. Do you know anything?
No, it's been silence.
Okay. So, I mean, coming away from it, I tried to make it pretty obvious that what I talked about it before was confirmed, where I don't think people who own a Quest 3 are going to be blown away visually by what's in the headset. What I was blown away by was the balance and the weight. It was so comfortable. It's so much smaller than you expect. Like, you know, when you see the videos of the IPD adjuster, in my head, that thing's like massive, right? Because the videos, it was like 10 millimeters. It was like the size of my bloody fingernail. I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. But yeah, it was brilliant. The FOV was nice. I think it was a little bit bigger than Quest 3. It felt bit bigger than Quest 3. I got to try both straps. Both are good, you know. But the wireless PCVR thing was phenomenal. Loved that. To me, I think the thing that's going to blow people away is the balance and the comfort. And if it does come in at like $800, I would rather use that than like a big screen.
Right.
To be honest, it just felt like more of a. But I'm a gamer. No, I understand people we want VR chat and stuff, you know. But it's got eye tracking, isn't it? Steam Frame. I don't know. Do you think the VR community, the VR chat community, are going to be interested in Steam Frame?
I think at the beginning it's going to be a little rough for those people because from what I've heard, the eye tracking doesn't do anything like tracking blinking and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's which I think that'll be fixed by the community over a period of time. But I do kind of feel like it'll be more a gamer, especially PCVR should go watch it because I think it's a really good
Oh, thank
overview.
you. Cheers,
Yeah.
mate. I tried. It's just like the normal man plays a Steam frame video. It's not. I'm not really a tech guy, Like
You know what though? I feel like most people who are excited about Steam Frame, other than like some of the VR already in VR, like just love Valve stuff. A lot of them are just like people who have dipped their toes in VR many years ago, and just are gamers and just want to get back into a gaming focused headset in general. So I think like your voice on this is like the most resonating voice for the majority of people who,
Cheers, man.
yeah. But yeah,
Thanks.
everyone does agree. Like everyone I've talked, I've not heard one person that said like the PCVR streaming is just bad. It's like they always say that's like the highlight of the thing.
Yeah.
They always do talk about how they've tested some of the standalone stuff that always seems to be pretty broken depending on the title and stuff. Unless they're just doing flat gaming. In the
Yeah, flat. I
window.
was going to say flat gaming was actually really good. That was not saying it's a big like hardware side away, like to the side, software wise. Suddenly, I actually thought because this is balanced and because it feels so nice to wear, I genuinely could actually play 2D games on it. The screen was lovely. That's the thing. I mean, when we've spoken about 3D versions of some games in that would be wild to me because the controllers just is when you do that, the controllers just make sense. You're like, yeah, this headset is made for VR, 2D gaming. I don't know whether it's going to be used for media too much. I'm imagining it might be, but yeah, as a gaming headset, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm excited that you said that because I've always been that crazy guy that kind of feels like one day we will wear headsets to have an unparalleled either flat gaming or whatever experience. It's so hard because obviously the hardware is like usually heavy and you sacrifice a lot to do that now, but technology improves, man. Like it help more people kind of get that light bulb in their head, like when they do the Steam Frame flat gaming standalone stuff, either on the go for some reason. Like it would be so cool if I just see a lot of like Reddit posts when the thing comes out of like people being like, yeah, instead of bringing my Steam Deck, I brought my Steam Frame and I just played Hollow freaking Night on
Yeah,
the road
man.
or whatever. Like that'll be cool. That'll be sick. I'll love to see that.
That was so good. There was a point where the guy who was doing the demo with me, he said like, pick up the Quest 3 from the center strap, pick up the Steam Frame, and the Quest 3 instantly just dropped. And the Steam Frame's like balancing, and I'm like, damn, this thing is pretty cool. Oh, and I played crazy Half-Life Alyx running natively on it.
Yeah.
Not an experience I would recommend. I said that it's not something like I don't want people to think, oh, I'm going to buy Steam Frames to play Half-Life Alyx on it.
Yeah.
That isn't the case at all. But I can't deny it was like a really surreal thing. Like there was no question that it wasn't running on this guy's PC because I also played it on his PC.
Yeah.
Which was phenomenal. But yeah, like I just didn't think that would ever happen. That's pretty much it. I just didn't think it would ever happen.
I really do hope they release an optimized version.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I just think if they don't, that's honestly a bit of a failure point because like I know that they've been building, the lab, bunch of tech demos from
Yeah.
2016. Like they've been basically rebuilding those to run on Steam Frame natively.
And they are very cool.
Yeah. So like I always assumed they were doing that as more of a test bed to build out because Half-Life Alyx is built on Source 2 engine and a lot of that stuff is all internal, so they need to like basically build all these tools to if they want to port something like as big as Half-Life Alyx. So I always saw them doing the lab stuff as a bit of a test bed for them to figure out what goes wrong, whatever, and then bring that experience over. Because I don't know. I know they're not as focused on the standalone as much as the PCVR in terms of marketing, but I think over time that capabilities will be used more and they need to show that off as well.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we've had this conversation, but I think in general, most people believe eventually that standalone, in whatever way it's going to be, will be how VR succeeds. Because if you're using a PC, you're still tied to having to be somewhere with a connection, for example. I know you can hire virtual PCs and stream and all that stuff, but still, there is something really magical about just standalone, Yeah, and obviously with the Apple Vision Pro, dude, like you've got the most powerful VR headset in the world, haven't you? Really? Stuck on your head right now.
Yeah, and I still wish it could be more powerful. Like, frankly, I like, it is the most powerful, and that's another like little thing where it's like I've been like doing a little fun. Actually, they're more like they're crap, but they're they're fun crap. I'm just like literally I was talking to some from friends recently, and they were talking about like the idea like what if instead of we had instead of like the play space boundaries or whatever, people would walk up to the wall and then all of a sudden the wall would turn into bees and it would freak the person out and make them run away. I'd be
Right.
like, oh, let's see if I can build that something like that in Vision Pro. And I basically built this little thing where you it's like disguised as a meditation app where it's like bee themed. I'm like, there's a little button that says meditate with bees and learn how bees are useful to the world. But once you click that button, it just spawns a huge swarm of bees that are buzzing and like chasing you all across the room and stuff. Yeah, and even something simple like that, it all runs in like a metal shader or whatever, and like it runs pretty well in M5, but like there's a lot of little things like that where I realize we're still so early.
Mm.
Like there's so many things we need better processing still. I guess this actually goes into segues to one of the topics we had written down in our notes actually, because we've been talking about Steam Frame and how it has foveated streaming. Another thing is a virtual desktop for I think Quest and Pico devices have also implemented foveated streaming.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, have you tested it?
I've not tested it yet, but I've heard very good things. It's also on Galaxy XR, the Samsung headset that everyone kind of forgets exists because, you know. And the thing is, that's a big deal because before, when people were using virtual desktop and they were doing eye and face tracking, like using all the feature set of Galaxy XR, it was actually throttling super hard, so they would actually lose frame rate and stuff because the Galaxy XR still uses the same chip as Quest 3. A little bit of improvements here and there, but it's mostly the same silicon. And running those 4K per eye displays and doing all this stuff, even when you're just streaming to a PC, it's got to decode all that resolution stuff. It was struggling, but people have been downloading Virtual Desktop with the new foveated streaming. And it's much better, I'm hearing. Like, none of the throttling happens as much. It's able to just take a breather when it's doing PC VR. But yeah,
Do you think they would have pushed for that though without the Steam Frame? Like without all this noise about Steam Frame doing it?
I feel like what really I think it really started the most with the Quest Pro getting the feature and people were kind of talking about it, but I do think Steam Frame's announcement probably forced them to go much faster in releasing it.
Yeah.
I love the virtual desktop devs. They're great. You know, they've been supporting this stuff for a while. But I remember when it first came out with this feature, it was kind of like the idea of implementing it was kind of poo-pooed. But yeah, now it's there. Not only that, do we have it on all those systems, and all the systems that have Steam Link as well. Vision Pro, I don't want to talk too much about Vision Pro, but it actually got sort of this feature this week. There's currently Vision OS 26.4. It's a beta right now. And they actually have made a whole bunch of frameworks so that you can also do foveated streaming on Vision OS. Now, the problem is it's not as easy to do compared to Steam Link and Virtual Desktop because it requires NVIDIA's Cloud XR as a baseline.
Right.
So you're not even I can't use it right now because no one's built out the whole system. Even though NVIDIA's Cloud XR is based on OpenXR and all Vision OS is doing is like translating some of those OpenXR calls to Reality Kit calls or whatever. It's just, it could be used for PC VR streaming theoretically when someone builds out that system. But it's also, the benefit is because Vision OS is clearly trying to get that enterprise market more. It's more beneficial probably for the enterprise market who are doing stuff like streaming content to devices that are even higher resolution than what we were just talking about the M5 can even handle. One little cool tidbit that they can do in this version of the foveated streaming that I haven't seen done on any streaming thing at all is, hey, they gave an example where with this framework they built out, you can do something like you can have let's say you're doing a flight simulator, you can have the whole cockpit of your plane rendered completely locally on device, but the entire like outdoors, like everything you see outside the plane, they could have that streamed from the cloud and have it combined with what's being locally rendered. So you're like saving processing on both the headset and saving processing on the cloud. And like, that is really cool. That's like actual split computing
Yeah,
completely.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, and
That's
that kind
real?
of stuff is really
That's
freaking cool.
happening? Someone's spoken about that?
That Apple wrote it in their like whole documents themselves as
Wow,
an
that's
example of what you
mad.
could do. Yeah. So there, yeah, again, that's an enterprise use case, but I think over time you could see something like that become more used, like when if cloud streaming gets to a point where it's more accessible. I'm still very. I heard that foveated streaming actually does solve some problems with the whole cloud latency stuff.
Right, right.
The defunct company, now basically defunct company, Ultraleap, who was doing all the cool stuff. They did a bunch of papers on this and stuff. But yeah, it seems like foveated streaming is basically just a standard feature that every headset needs to have now. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it is
Things have
cool.
improved.
And hopefully with Steam Frames like dongle, you won't necessarily need to have the best like internet available. Like for example, I've got a really good router downstairs in my son's room, but if I don't have that door open, within like a few minutes, Steam Link will be like, dude, we're dropping some frames, and then I open the door and it's fine. I mean, I don't know why, but hopefully that dongle would just eliminate any of that.
I think that might be like that is not even just the dongle itself, but the fact the headset, for anyone who don't know, it has two different separate radios in the headset. One that's primarily focused just on the dongle, and then they have the separate one if you're like also streaming stuff or on Wi-Fi or whatever.
Yeah.
Which not many devices have that kind of setup, and that is actually that is so useful. Like I can't even begin because usually when you are like doing something like let's say you're doing something intensive like you're downloading Netflix for whatever reason and you're doing streaming to your PC, you're like almost fighting with the bandwidth and decoding stuff at the same time. So doing that like alleviates it a lot. So that's a freaking genius idea that Valve is implementing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can't wait. And obviously, and it looks like they're working really hard on Steam OS.
Yeah.
More than ever. Like I swear there was 2 years where nothing changed, like ever. And then suddenly we keep getting new updates, mostly for the public test channel. It just seems to keep coming like every month or so. Have you heard of anything particular that matters at the moment?
It's just tons of SteamOS updates, like a lot of fixes for some of the stuff. And again, that's the thing is like Steam Deck has already shown that software and OS improved a lot from when the Steam Deck first launched and like what games you can run to 2 years later, and it gotten a way better. I still do track a lot of the SteamOS updates. A lot of them are Steam Frame focused. A lot of them are also, of course, Steam Machine focused. If you ask me back in November why Valve didn't like release the Steam Frame when they first announced it, back when I was told back then was the software was frankly just so unfinished and unready that even if the hardware was ready, they probably wouldn't have been comfortable releasing it yet.
Yeah.
But I think it's gotten to a bit of a better point where it's like it's not even the software that's holding things back now. I think it's more just the obvious hardware difficulties and supply chain stuff now that they're worried about.
Yeah. So I mean, just to underline it, XR's gone from like it's been a very exciting year, especially in hardware terms. Like software, I'm not sure what's going on really, you know. Like as a gamer, I do struggle sometimes. I've been loving VR mods. I think Resident Evil 4 has been pretty miraculous actually with what they've done with that. And that's just like 3 guys who do it because they love it. They don't necessarily get paid. People support them obviously, but I'm sure they don't make a full-time income from it. And it's really upsetting that Capcom just can't be bothered to do Resident Evil on PC. I don't know why the VR modes are always stuck on PlayStation, which is great for PSVR owners. Yeah. But one of the notes we have here is about, you've gone from upload, graphics depicting Meta's next headset found in Quest firmware. So this is about the Phoenix?
Yeah, this is about the Phoenix. Shout out to Luna and Samulia.
Always Luna, man. Always Luna with Phoenix at the moment.
Yeah, Luna has taken over the grueling job of data mining Meta stuff that I'm completely not wanting to do anymore.
Someone's got to do it. It's a dirty job.
Do it, and I'm glad Luna does it because at least Luna is like thrilled about meta stuff, whereas even when I was doing it, I wasn't too overly attached. So they got that. Yeah, there's better. It's better to have someone do that and be excited about what they're data mining. But anyway, yeah, it was just like a small stuff, a lot of eye tracking, including the user experience, which it's just quite similar to what you have with a lot of headsets. You look at dots and it will actually, just like PSVR 2 and Vision Pro, it will get brighter near the end because, hey, your pupils dilate depending on how bright the content is. So we got to have eye tracking set up for both dark and light content. PSVR 2, as far as I know, was the first to do that, by the way. So that was good on them to actually do that for
Yeah.
their high fidelity eye tracking. But yeah, there's even some pictures showing off the whole, at least a render or something, and it shows like a very thin and light form factor. It looks like honestly, it looks very similar to like just a shrunk down Vision Pro without the facial interface put in there, and there's a big nose thing like you would wear glasses. I don't even know what you call those. Just a little nose thing that will obviously a lot of the pressure. I think when this thing releases out of the box will be
Oh, that's
put all
interesting.
on your nose rather than other
Your
parts of
head.
your body.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Because there's like 3 points is there of contact. It's your forehead, depending on your strap, like the back of the head, and I guess over the head. And now they might implement basically like wearing a pair of glasses, the bridge of your nose, which is obviously rock solid.
My bet is for a lot of people, even though I've heard they've been kind of talking about how this nose pad.
Nose
Thank you,
pad.
brain. Thank you, brain.
I thank my
Will be
brain.
adjustable and stuff. I do think, just like every Meta headset, there will be a great opportunity for third parties to develop other solutions. Because I think we might have talked about this before, but I tried like a VR glasses and type thing when I was in China, and they also put a lot of weight on a nose guard. And even with X-Real, like X-Real, it gets to like 80 grams, even lighter in some cases. But I just think for the nose can be sensitive for people. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Some
think
people
if it,
might not even have a big enough nose. Some people like you're talking
yeah.
about people's faces. Like I've got a fair size honker, so like it's pretty good. I could balance the world on this thing, so that's fine. Like they can use me as a test subject.
Yeah, I think again, I think this will be a great experiment. Just watching people react to this product more than maybe any other product, because it really is doing a lot of things different, at least for the VR MR stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
not much else to say. I just think
that
it's neat.
it is neat, and I think that's a great call for anyone who's on Spotify to come and watch us on YouTube just to check out the size of our noses. So, what about this new Pico Project Swan
Yeah.
headset? Because someone like messaged me back and said, "Dude, do you know the price of that headset?"
Oh God.
And I was
It's
like, "No, it's thousands, isn't it?"
yeah. So I was told this back in I think October, but the BOM price, bill of materials, is near the same that it costs to make the Vision Pro.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know if they're gonna charge as much of a upsell that Apple does for their products, but even just starting with that, it's gonna be a very expensive headset. I wouldn't be shocked if they do charge 2,500 plus
Yeah.
for this. Which let's just talk a little bit. I guess I don't want to say anything about price until we like kind of talk about what they have shown off and some of the things I've heard and seen. They're basically doing the Apple thing, honestly. They've stopped deciding they
Isn't
basically
everyone? Isn't everyone?
you said it, not me.
I mean,
But yeah. Pico used to copy the Meta Horizon stuff, but now they seem to be more interested in copying the Vision OS stuff. And it shows not just with the hardware they're working on, but their software. They showed off what they're calling Pico OS 6, and wow, it's Vision OS. That's
yeah.
Android, their version of
It
Android.
makes sense, dude. Like you can't help it. I think you said it in our last episode how it feels like the OS is made by people who want to use the headset. Like they enjoy using it. This is how it should work. And when I used it the other week, yeah, you're just looking and pinching. Like
it's natural and
it's intuitive.
Yeah, and from what I understand is Pico S6 will also still support the controllers that they still have now for the Pico 4U. Something interesting about the new OS is it's not, at least right now, coming to previous headsets. So this OS is literally only coming to this upcoming headset, but clearly building EOS and the hardware perfectly together and not wanting to waste any time or resources on older stuff, which sucks for obviously people who are already invested in Pico.
Yeah.
But that's just the reality of it. It will have eye tracking and pinch. So a lot of the developer documentation kind of hint to all the features will have, and eye tracking, face tracking, pinch gesture, body tracking, which is just the upper body like Meta has and popularized quite for some games. Now I will say, just judging by what I've seen, even though it's clearly a copy of what Apple is doing, they put a lot of work into this. I can just tell. Like they built out so many systems and unified engines to make this all work that I almost want to say they're putting more work into it than maybe Google did with Android XR. Now the problem is I still think they're going to struggle doing this headset, not because of price or anything, but because they just don't have that slew of apps that both Apple and Android XR have day one to do this
Yeah,
spatial
yeah.
computing thing. But if we want to talk about the hardware, it's again high end 4000 ppi pixels per inch Micro-OLED displays. They're semi-custom as far as I understand. They're working with, I believe, BOE, a very big company who has been trying to build out their Micro-OLED fab. BOE supplies displays for Meta. They used to supply the displays for the Valve Index. Like they've already been in VR, many VR headsets for a while, but nothing in volume for Micro OLED, so that's pretty big. The big thing here as well is this headset is doing the dual chip design like the Vision Pro. So unlike the Quest and the Pico we have now that does everything on a single chip, and I'm sure some people have noticed this if they use their headset a lot, as soon as you turn on mixed reality, things struggle like
Yeah,
computationally a lot.
immensely, dude. Immensely.
Yeah, so that's kind of one problem with the XR2 chips is it's hard to handle all of it at once. So the new thing is to have a custom or semi-custom chip that handles all the camera sensors, all the XR stuff. Let it do that, and then they have a separate chip that's more compute focused, handle maybe the games or the applications, all that stuff runs separately, even the main OS, and just kind of bind them together. And it seems to work very well for Apple. I think we'll see something similar from the Phoenix product from Meta that we were just talking about a little bit ago. But the thing I've heard interestingly enough here is early prototypes of this headset was originally a super light form factor split to puck as well. But I think they've actually might have changed to a more all-in-one type
Oh.
design for this headset. So I don't know if that means they're going to tether to a battery only or they're just going to do everything on the head. I've seen some prototypes where there is a battery on the head very similar to Pico 4, but I'm not sure how final those are.
But one question I wanted to ask you about Pico in general, I'm very
Yeah.
surprised these guys have money to do what they do. Like, as far as I know, this headset is going to be the first one that's launched worldwide. Does that mean
Yeah.
all Pico products now are going to be global?
If I had to guess, no. So they are hiring a bunch of people for Pico in US even to prepare for this. I've seen even advertising managers and content partnership stuff, which just popped up like right after the announcement of this thing. So they do seem to be again trying to do North America. But one thing I think, okay, the answer to your question just now is, I think, a bit of a two-parter answer. One, they're still bankrolled by ByteDance, who owns TikTok,
Yeah.
and the owner of ByteDance, CEO, he is quite passionate about emerging technologies.
Good.
So he's okay with bankrolling it. He's not okay with bankrolling gaming. I can tell you that.
Right.
Like not just VR gaming, but I think last year, maybe the year before, he just basically said that he doesn't think gaming, like the long lead times and all the money you put into it, is just right for him and their investments or whatever. So it kind of makes sense, even coming from that perspective, why that Pico as a company is pivoting more to the spatial computing stuff and the VR gaming, other than the other stuff that's happening in the industry right now. But Pico's actually quite huge in the B2B, business to business sector of VR. I would say they almost replaced HTC completely in that regard. HTC used to be like, especially in China, HTC were the company that
Yeah.
anytime a Chinese company wanted to use a headset for something, they would just buy a bunch of HTC standalones, Focus, stuff like that. Pico overwhelmingly took that over. And even in America, people don't know this, but America still does sell Pico products, but only business products. They do not sell directly to consumer.
Okay.
So even though there's never been like a push for the consumer headsets or the consumer gaming platforms here, you were still able to buy Pico headsets at a higher price if you were like an enterprise or business, and it was very different OS than what you would get on the consumer side. So I think this headset, even though it'll be expensive, will still actually cater to the stuff they're doing well right now. I know Pico's quite semi-popular in Europe on the consumer side. A lot of people bought them as alternatives to the Quest, especially
Yeah.
during periods of time that Quest wasn't available in Germany. as far as I know. So they built a bit of a base there. But as far as I know, and this is even evidenced by when you look at the Pico store, the top selling, most people bought just a subsidized headset and then just bought virtual desktop and just used it on Steam VR. So I think all of these things have made Pico still okay to invest in this, want to follow what the spatial computing side of things. Again, we've talked about this with Meta. None of these humongous companies are wanting to be the next Nintendo. They want to be the next iPhone or whatever that is, next Macintosh, next PC. So it's fine for them to invest a little bit in this.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. I mean, I thought the Pico 4 Ultra, because I had one for a little while, was an excellent headset. Shame they got rid of the DisplayPort side of things. So I think that's why everyone was interested in Pico 3. And then when they made Pico 4 Ultra, which was a better headset, they ditched one of the features that everyone wanted. But yeah, apart from that, I struggled really to find a reason to use it.
Yeah.
Like, that was the biggest problem. I think I kicked it in the box more than I actually put it on my head. And then they asked for it back. And I was like, yeah, you can have it back, man. It's just taking up floor space, unfortunately, as some of these things do, because I'm not a grifter. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I use something when I don't. So yeah, so that's cool. Pico back in the fray. So we've got Google, Samsung, Apple, Meta, Pico. Is there anyone else that that is joining the XR race, as it were?
I feel like we covered everyone that's notable. Like,
Yeah.
again, it's just weird because we are very clearly in this transitionary period where I think if you want to get into this market now, frankly, the bar is so high for what your platform needs to do and how it does it that, frankly, it's actually harder it's harder for smaller companies that don't have a software platform, but it's easier for smaller companies that can just tap into already built platforms if that is available. I think for the most part, you're just going to see a lot of the same companies after this. I saw you got a new Pimax headset recently.
Yeah, I haven't unboxed it yet. It's it's the way it's called the Crystal Light.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel exceptionally light. It's I literally messaged my contact back and I was like, I don't know, why didn't you send me the Dream Air? Like,
yeah.
I think that's on the way eventually, but they wanted me to test this one out. So yeah, I'll give it a shot and see what I think.
No. Well,
I'm
hopefully
not.
they do send you the Dream Air so that you can compare. So, from my understanding, the Crystal Light is quite popular among the Pimax community.
Right.
But my feeling is if you did get to try from your perspective the Crystal Light and then they do send you the Dream Air, it would be a really cool comparison and like to get your feedback on things.
That and the big screen. I'll have three of them
Oh, yeah.
to put against each other. The big screen, man. That was like the most hyped I've been to actually put a headset on and then come away a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I marvel at it for its form factor and stuff. I'm like, this is crazy technology that's in there. But realistically, having warm eyes, if you want to put the brightness up so the fans kick off and
Yeah.
the field of view wasn't great. And the image quality was nice, but I didn't really find it that incredible. Like, I still remember being far more wowed by using the Pimax Crystal, like the original one back there,
Yeah.
than I was using big screen. So yeah, like all these things, I think everyone's taken a step forward, but I still think there's that middle ground, like going back to Steam Frame, and I don't mean to keep talking about Steam Frame, but for me, Steam Frame is more something I'm interested in because it's more of a consumer, it's not a high-end product. It's not like you can only use this for Sims, or it's only based for something, I much prefer a gaming focused headset. But that's just me. That's not the same for everyone.
And it's like a well-rounded experience. It kind of just has, even if it doesn't like, I don't want to say it this way, but because it probably does do the best in wireless PC VR. Even though it's not like incredible in one value, it's like probably just well-rounded all across the board compared to a lot of offerings.
That's why I'm more interested in it, man. Like I think like with super sampling and that amazing wireless PCVR experience, that got me so hyped for Steam Frame. Yeah, as someone who's used it, I came away more excited.
That's good. That's a good thing to hear. I think a lot of people would be happy to hear that too.
That's what I felt like, man. I was like, oh, dude, I can't wait for this thing to come out. Well, like when you take the strap off and just put it in your hand, and it's like your hand, it's just there, and I'm like, it was a bit of a big screeny moment. Actually, I was like, wow, that's crazy. But then you could still have that experience with the Quest 3. If you take everything off it and you just hold that headset, you're like, that's an incredible bit of technology. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you about the Apple Vision Pro YouTube app. Because I've been seeing that's getting a bit of traction. What does it do versus like Quest 3? What's it better at? I mean, maybe visuals, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just okay. Let me preface this a bit, because that was like one of the things where it's like everyone was so focused on like, oh, Vision Pro doesn't have a YouTube app. Why would you buy it? Because it doesn't have that. And now that it's out, yeah, it's a pretty good app. But frankly, I just prefer still going on Safari and clicking YouTube.com and getting the desktop UI.
Why?
It really is kind of taking like the YouTube app on maybe like your mobile phone and just like kind of placing it in a bigger screen. It does have features like that you would want, like can play a lot of the old 180-degree VR videos. In fact, if you have the M5 and only the M5 chip, you can play the 8K content on it. If you have the M2 chip, you cannot. And it's not because of the difference in processing. It's because YouTube serves 8K content from their platform in AV1 format, and the M2 actually does not have an AV1 decoder. Yeah, I know. That's actually one downside of it compared to even Quest, which does have a AV.
I was going to say, man, I've watched some really high fidelity stuff on Quest.
Also, it can play spatial videos, but I'm a bit sour on it because I've uploaded. So the last 3 videos actually on my channel are actually uploaded in spatial video format. And even if you go into the app, whether it's on Android XR or on YouTube, on Vision Pro, it will have a little 3D icon on the bottom left there, because it knows it's a 3D format. But once you open it, no, it won't serve in 3D no matter what you freaking do. All that work I put into making it 3D.
Why?
I have a suspicion that whoever's building this stuff isn't dog fooding it. They're not actually testing it. It's the problem we were talking about, where it's like, and that's kind of my problem with Android XR as well, if we're really getting to the thick of it, is like they did a pretty good base OS for the spatial computing stuff, but the polish is so far away from. You can just tell the people who are building it are just kind of cashing their check a bit, you know, like they're not using it constantly. A lot of people got excited for YouTube app. I think it is good. It's probably on par with the Android XR version, which is, people already said, it's better than the Quest version, because the Quest version is pretty old as far as I know at this point.
Yeah, it's really old.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay, but I just prefer the Safari experience of YouTube, like having everything all on the screen. I have enough screen real estate digitally to use it that way. It didn't excite me, and I didn't think the Vision Pro was missing something without the YouTube app. And now that it has it, I don't feel like it's the killer app for it either. Right. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So you think like Disney, for example, did a better job with their own?
Oh yeah, by far. Disney did. I mean, you've seen the environments and all this stuff that happen when you do it. Like, and they do have super high fidelity 3D stuff on their app. And even though I don't really use Disney Plus much because I feel they're limited in content, I do think they put a lot of work into that. Where the YouTube app, it does what it needs to, but I just think it's just okay. I don't know.
It's fair enough. Did you see Andrew Bosworth's one of them anyway, because they always come up about his interpretation of where VR is and gaming is going, because he was asked directly if he feels he's let everyone down, basically.
You know what sucks? So a lot of people love to send me the Bosworth stuff, because I know I had that spat years ago.
Yeah. They want to try and trigger you.
Yeah, basically. they want to try to get a reaction out of me.
Yeah.
But, when he's the one thing you're talking about like the gravy train,
of gaming, because he was like, I gave them the gravy train. I gave you all these great games, and now we're taking them away for a little bit. You know, mate, I reckon it is for a short time till they get all their restructuring sorted. Yeah. I do think we're still going to see some first party games eventually. But I think at the moment, as we talked about, it's like a bit of a reset. Yeah. They're trying to sort out what they're doing. Because obviously it wasn't working as well as they hoped it would. So so when someone sent you his little spat, like how did you react?
He's been answering a lot of questions related to this, because obviously a lot of people are pissed off and asking him like, what the frick, man? What are you guys doing over there?
Well, yeah, because it's a counter argument in a way, like are they trying to grow VR? And if they say they are, but if you're killing studios that are making games for your product, it's kind of like the opposite message at the same time.
I actually more recently agree with a lot of Bosworth is saying. I don't agree with how he freaking frames it, because he's always
What?
Anyway.
Say it. He's not going to watch this, man. He doesn't care.
He's
a big
I don't
boy.
know. He cannot say anything without sounding like a total jerk about how he's saying it. It's just crazy. But no, it's like it's true that what they were doing and how they were doing it was just not sustainable in the long term. It's true that even though yes, there was that huge boom, especially with Quest 2 and stuff, the growth hasn't really continued, and if the growth isn't continuing, why should I can actually be the devil's advocate. Why should Meta, if they're the ones spending the most money on all of this, and even Apple, all these Google, whatever, they're dipping their toes, but they're not spending. Valve, none of these companies are spending near amount of money on this. Why should Meta continue being the sugar daddy? Like if this industry is going to take longer to build than they thought it would or whatever. So I understand from that standpoint, yeah, they probably shouldn't because they're a business, they're not a charity, of course. But at the same time, I don't understand their future quest strategy still. Like I think we talked about this before as well on this channel. I understand why they're doing Phoenix. I understand that push. I understand all of that from their company. I also totally understand the smart glasses push, the wearables. All of that stuff fit more in my mind of what Meta wants long term than the Quest Gaming stuff ever did. But they're still tiptoeing around like, yeah, we're still spending the most money on VR and like we're gonna have another Quest someday. Like, but in my mind, I'm like, why? What are you gonna do? Even I don't completely understand because I agree with you. What are you gonna do on the gaming side? Like, what is there for gaming people who got into your original base that you got into and got excited about this technology? What are you going to do for them? And frankly, they have not answered that. And I don't know how they're going to answer that.
Yeah, because they inject so much money into the ecosystem. Yeah, I don't know. They seem to be trying to put a lot of steps right. They're trying to correct some previous mistakes like Horizon. Today, actually, I checked out that new frame sync from Phase Sync, which just sounds like a really old Phase Sync just sounds really old. And they've decided to like, yeah, this isn't doing a good job anymore. So I played Assassin's Creed Nexus using Phase Sync and recorded it with like an OVR metric tool. And dude, like that game is probably the best example I could find where it runs at 45 frames, it's reprojected to 90, and there's things called stale frames, and they are like, I've got wave graphs, and in Phase Sync, it is like this all the time. It's just trying to keep up. And with frame sync, it was like, I don't know, a 50% better experience, much less stale frames. Is it like, I think I said this, is it like groundbreakingly better? Probably not. But is it an improvement? Yeah, it is. It is a massive improvement. And Assassin's Creed was one of those games I thought looked fantastic on Quest 2. And I still think it looks fantastic today. Just walking through that particular Roman level, seeing all those people in that game, they're all talking. Like, I think that game is amazing in that way. And then obviously with the removal of Horizon, they're hopefully going to give more exposure to developers. I still haven't seen that in my headset yet.
Right.
It's still very Horizon-ish, you know, like you go in there, you still see the bloody Horizon stuff. So I'm waiting for that because the way they made it sound was it was going to be instant. Like, we are going to do this right now. We are making a change. And that necessarily hasn't happened yet, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with their rolling update chaos. Like, I see some people say, oh, I don't see it anymore. And I see some people screaming at the other people, liar, my headset does it. Assassin's Creed I'm glad you bring that up because that was a game even I played when it came out. And I remember I stopped playing it because I agree. I actually was quite impressed with it when it came out. But there was one thing that screwed me was during like the swing. I don't even know if it's swinging or like you're like holding on poles and you're trying to swing to the next one or something. And you have to like perfectly time your grab. I swore there was like this micro stutter back then that made me miss inputs. So when you're talking about how the new syncing technology would make things maybe not drastically better, but at least smoother in terms of that.
It is the micro stutters. That is exactly the right term. It basically fixes a lot of micro stutters. Yeah.
So stuff like that, man, like that is why I stopped. I got so frustrated with that. Like I have very low tolerance, obviously, but when stuff like that gets improved, those small things should be the things that are improved, especially in VR, where who knows, maybe some people got motion sick from the micro stutters. We don't freaking know.
Exactly, that's the thing. Like some people, like you, me, you can just kind of put up with it for hours on end. You get into a level, as I said, this one level in Assassin's Creed was just at the time far too intensive for a Quest 2.
Yeah.
And you start off, I think it's when you were like the girl out of the 3 characters, and you're in like Rome, I think. And as you walk towards a town, if you looked anywhere else but directly forward, you was like there was like it was like someone just put a black finger across your face, like, whoa, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's rendered now. And it would start all over the place. As today, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And there was just moments in general where I walk under an archway and suddenly again, like stutters are happening with phase sync, and they're just not happening with frame sync. Do I want to keep using it? No, I don't, because you have to input bloody ADB commands.
Right.
And to make that video, obviously I've got to prove to myself that that ADB command has even worked. And with Meta's own software, Developer Hub, it would not input ADB commands. I was like, what is going on with this? And then I used SideQuest instantly. ADB command, yeah, it was there. The check was there. And I was like, oh, that's it. Like, I don't understand why Meta's own software didn't work. But yeah, I mean, as someone who likes to go back to older games, when you get new hardware, you do. I think you do. You think, oh, does this game look better? Not only does it look like a higher resolution, I think that was very important for me. I find it very hard to play a headset now without Pancake. Like PSVR 2, because of the graphical fidelity of the power of PS5, especially on Pro, it kind of makes up for it. You're like, this game looks gorgeous. I was playing Gran Turismo again the other day, dude. It's such a sensational experience. But yeah, like there's some people out there, dude, still like I was on the Reddit the other day. There's still people in the Steam Frame Reddit on Rift S. And I'm like, I don't know how you like I bought a Rift S again because I wanted a PC VR headset, because obviously if you can eliminate link encoding, your system gets better performance. So I was like, dude, I had Quest 3 and I thought, do you know what? I really miss my Rift S. That was awesome. It was a very light headset, very comfy. I think it only went up to 80 hertz as a refresh rate, but still, it was enough. 5 minutes, I was out. I sold it again. I was like, the screen door in this thing is horrendous.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrendous. So yeah.
Yeah, we're ruined forever.
And I think one of the other things on our list was about nDreams, bless them.
Yeah.
Yet another studio. And I think this isn't one I was surprised about. So if anyone hasn't heard, nDreams they had 3 studios. I think they had Nearlight, Elevation, and another one I can't remember. But they basically cut 2 of them. I think they've kept Nearlight or they've kept Elevation. I don't want to be quoted on it, but one of the 2 they've kept. And I think it might be Elevation, which works on Reach. They've just had a really bad stint of games that just haven't launched very well, or they just haven't been very good. Like Ghostbusters, I've said it publicly. I remember the first time I played that at Gamescom, there was like 4 of us. There was me, Nathy, Mike. We jumped in there. We was all excited. We had, I think is it Jake Zim? He's now part of the Gorilla Tag team at Another Axiom. And he is super. He just gives out energy. Like you walk in there and he's like, I don't know, he feels like some American director who can make you feel like you could do anything. So we're all hyped. We're getting to Ghostbusters and I was like, what is this? What is this game? Why am I shooting ghost fish? And who is my character? And it was just it wasn't a good experience. And I told him at the end of it, and he was very upset. But yeah, and Reach launched really bad, which is such a shame because it's actually quite an innovative game for VR movement. There's some really cool stuff in there, but they played it safe. The enemies aren't that hard as it was when I play tested it. They were actually really difficult. They learned from what you did, and they kind of changed. If you could get through levels really easily, they got harder. If the levels were too hard, they like step back a bit to allow you to get through it. None of that seemed to be in Reach, and it had some really big game breaking bugs. So yeah, unfortunately, that's another studio now that has been hit. And it's a real shame because I know them personally. Like I've been to that studio, I've met the guys, so it is upsetting. But it just seems to be a wave now across VR, getting all these hits. I'm waiting for Vertigo to say something. I hope they don't, because I think they've done some really good work with the Arizona Sunshine. And I'm sure that game probably still sells, the original from like 2017, or is it 2016? That is an old game. It was like the first real zombie VR shooter I think I remember seeing on YouTube. It kind of went viral. It was amazing.
Yeah, there was only like 2 zombie shooters back then. There was a game called Brookhaven Experiment, which is way simpler than Arizona Sunshine. But Arizona Sunshine was the one for sure.
Yeah, there was another one as well called Contagion. Do you remember Contagion?
I don't remember that one.
It started off in an apartment, and that was the big difference. This one kind of set like a cinematic feel where you pick up a phone and your wife's like really upset, you know, she can't get home or something. Zombies are attacking everyone, and then it just wasn't a great game after that. But there was an element there that I thought was really cool.
So with the nDreams, you said Nearlight was one of them that they're selling.
I think
off?
so, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring up kind of related to the gravy train comment. Metaverse Boom, everything's great, going crazy, insanely crazy. nDreams only acquired Nearlight in late 2022, so right at the peak of the Metaverse Boom. They bought them. I guess they made a couple games, and now after Metaverse Boom, not sustainable.
Yeah, I imagine that's the same across everyone.
Yeah,
they all invested. Yeah, they invested in the gravy train, and it hasn't worked out. So yeah, as a gamer, I don't know what's happening for VR, to be honest. I haven't got a clue. All I know is we're getting better headsets to play games we've already played. Which I'm kind of up for, I must admit. Like, playing Half-Life Alyx on Steam Frame was like, dude, I am so up for playing this game all over again.
Well, it's like even like the non-VR stuff. I saw 2 games came out yesterday. There was Marathon by Bungie, and then there was also Slay the Spire 2. And
my son is all over Slay the Spire 2.
Yep, I saw the Steam charts for both those games. I think Bungie's Marathon got less than 30K max players, at least since I'm aware. And the I keep wanting to say Risk Rain 2, but Slay the Spire 2 already surpassed 500,000 concurrent players. So you're seeing a lot of these indie games, frankly, just be way more sustainable. Not every AAA game fails, but I feel like a lot more of them are just not hitting the mark compared to like maybe some of the indie titles. And I kind of feel if VR gaming continues, I think it'll be the same way for the most part. I think you'll just get a lot of very passionate indie people who want to make something that they think couldn't be made for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Just, like the studio risk or whatever. And I think that will just hold things over for a while.
Yeah. And then we got Gunman Contracts. Cannot wait for that. There's actually loads of games that are still coming that I'm really excited for. I just can't think of off the top of my head. I'd have to watch my own VR 2026 video to be reminded, because obviously you get loads of emails and loads of different things happening. Yeah, I think this year's going to be good. I think with the release of Steam Frame, there's going to be a whole new era of people getting into VR, wanting to try these things. So yeah, I think this year's going to be a good year.
It'll be interesting. Yeah.
It would definitely be interesting. I think that's the one thing it's been consistently has been very interesting. But yeah, unless you've got anything else you would like to talk about today, I think we covered quite a few topics actually.
I think we nailed it. I think we hit it on the head, smashed it through the wall perfectly.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, thank you to everyone who listens to this episode. Thank you to the patrons who've helped me pay to get this software up and running. And as always, thank you to Bradley for being here and making this show possible. But yeah, cheers, man. Take care of yourself. Thank you. Bye.